Hi class, so this week we're covering Anova. The one-way Anova compares means of three or more groups. So we're comparing means of three or more groups of participants that vary on a single independent variable. Just like we did with the t-test the past 2 weeks, the t-test looks at the difference in means in two groups. So whenever you have more than two groups, you wouldn't be able to use the t-test. You would have to use what we call the Anova. And so the one-way ANOVA requires a single dependent variable. So in this case, it's going to be our management scores for the practice, and a single independent variable, which for this example is going to be the campus. And we have three groups. We have Commerce, Mesquite, and the McKinney campus, and that's our independent variable. So groups should be independent of each other, just like with the t-test, each group has to be independent. So all three groups have to be independent. So that means that if students attend the Commerce campus, they wouldn't be able to attend the McKinney campus or the Mesquite campus. So they can only be a part of one of the campus. Okay, so when using the one-way ANOVA, we are going to administer the management scores, which is our dependent variable, to see how students scored based on the campus that they attend, which is our independent variable. All right, so what you would do is copy your base client caseload, which was like your original data. So it should be your base client caseload 2. And you would copy that into your homework 6. For me, that's practice 6. And paste it. Once you do that, make sure you sort in alphabetical order based on name. So make sure you sort by name in alphabetical order. I think mine's already sorted, so I don't have to do that. I can't remember if your homework data was sorted or not. So make sure the first step you do is sort that data based on their names in alphabetical order. All right, so once that's done, you also need to copy your new sets of scores that you get for your homework 6 data. For mine is the management scores. So here those are. I've copied that over here. And then with the ANOVA, we want to make sure all our data is together. So what I'll do is I'm going to copy. So I'm going to need their names. I'm going to copy and move that down here. I'm also going to need campus. And then I'm also going to need the new scores, which is the management scores. Okay, so those are the only three things that I need for this homework. So I'm just gonna put all those together to make it easier. All right, so now that I have those scores, they're already in alphabetical order, so I don't have to sort. You may have to sort and make sure you do that first, because if not, the scores will not be in the right place. All right, so now that we have that, and we have our management scores, we're going to, what we're going to do is we need to sort by campus now. Because in order to do the ANOVA, we need to have three groups, and those are the campuses, right? So what we'll do here is we're going to sort these. So we copy all of it, and we go up here to sort and filter. Make sure you do custom sort, and then we're going to sort by campus and hit OK. All right, so now if you can see, all your scores are sorted based on campus. So now we're gonna have Commerce, Mesquite, make these columns a little bit wider so that they fit. All right, and I spelled mesquite wrong. All right, so now that we have it sorted, we could just copy and paste. So commerce, we copy all our commerce scores. Okay, so now we're going to copy so McKinney's next. And then mesquite. Okay, so now that we have these are the scores we're gonna need. So the first thing we want to do is do our descriptives. I'm just gonna do it right here, and then we go to data, data analysis, descriptive statistics. And we can do them together, or we can do them separately if you like. I'm just gonna do it all together. Make sure your labels in first row is checked, and then we need our output range. Select this, and then summary statistics also needs to be checked, and then hit OK. And here's your descriptive statistics. Let's see, mean, standard deviation, just making the columns a little bit wider. All right, and then what we'll do is, remember, when reporting your means and standard deviation and things like that, we want to make sure you use 2 decimal places. So for these, format cells, see if that works. Yes. We're going to do a number, and 2 decimal places is selected. So that should change it to 2 decimal places. All right. And from your descriptives, here's what we're going to need. We're going to need the means. We're going to need the standard deviation. We're going to need the range, which is the minimum and maximum scores. And then you're going to need the count, which is how many were in each, how many students were at each campuses. And that should be it. Okay. All right. So now that we have our descriptives, we're going to do our Anova. So we can just do it down here, and we go back to data, data analysis. And we're gonna do the Anova single factor. Hit OK. All right, so our input range is gonna be these right here. So these are our scores. Make sure labels in first row is selected, and then we need our output range, which we're gonna do it right below our descriptives. And hit OK. All right. And so if you notice, here are our groups: Commerce, Mesquite, McKinney. They all have 8 students. And although it does provide you a mean, it doesn't provide you a standard deviation. So it's a good thing we already did that when we did descriptive statistics. So if you come down here Here's our Anova table, and this is what we're gonna need. So here's our F statistics. So we're gonna need this. We need our p-value. We need our degrees of freedom. Okay, and we can also make these 2 decimal places as well. We do the format cells. We select number, make sure 2 decimal places is selected, hit OK, and now they're 2 decimal places. All right, and now we have everything we need for our Anova and to report our results. See, that was pretty simple, right? Not much different than doing a t-test, except this is with 3 groups. So basically, you'll start off by reporting your descriptive statistics, which would be starting off talking about how many participants were at each campus, and then you also need to present your findings in terms of the mean differences for each campus. So means for the 3 groups, and you have to report what the mean was for each group for McKinney, Mesquite, and Commerce. And remember, the mean and standard deviation must be reported. And once you do that, then you also report the Anova, that mean scores were compared using a one-way Anova. No significant differences was found because remember, our p-value was greater than 0.05, and so there's no significant differences. If our p-value was in fact lower than 0.05, then we'd have to do some more statistics in order to determine which group was different. Okay, and in order to do that, all you would have to do is you would have to do a t-test for each sets of groups. So basically, let's say our p-value was significant, then we would have to do a t-test using Commerce and Mesquite, a t-test using Commerce and McKinney, and then a t-test using Mesquite and McKinney. So basically, we would have to do a t-test because it would compare 2 groups, and you'll compare the mean differences between those 2 groups. Therefore, we would be able to determine which 2 groups were different or which groups were different from each other. But since we don't have a significant, then we know that there's no difference between the groups, so therefore we don't have to do anything further. But if your homework gives you results where your p-value is in fact less than 0.05, you would have to do a t-test with each set of groups. So remember, t-test can only be done with 2 groups, and so you would have to do 2 groups at a time. So depending on how many groups you have, that will determine how many t-tests you'd have to do. And since you already did t-test for the last 2 weeks, we don't have to do that again in this video. However, you do know how to do that. All right, so once that's done, that's it. Here in the Anova table, you have everything that you need to report your Anova. So it would be, let's see. So the way you would write it is, it would be parentheses F, which is your F statistic, and then you do another open parenthesis, and you have to report your degrees of freedom, which is, the first one is 2, comma, second one is 21, close parentheses, equals your actual F statistic, which is 2.12, comma, P greater than 0.05, close parentheses, and that's it. Okay, so that's how you would report your actual F. Okay, but again, remember, you have to make sure you report your descriptives as well, which is your means and your standard deviation and your ranges. I will also post a sample narrative on how to write all of this up. Again, you should be able to find this under the resources handouts tab to get a full description of how you would write up the results for this particular practice exercise. All right, so that's it for the Anova. If you have any questions, be sure to post your questions under the discussion section for this assignment, or send an email. Either way is fine, but I'd rather you just post the question under the discussion. That way everybody can also benefit from the response to that question. All right, and that's it. You guys have a great day.